Yeah,
I
you're
should.
up.
I guess I'll just say it now. I record. I April fooled myself. I absolutely thought I was scheduling this for Sunday morning. So, and
Right.
in 1 hour, we're actually talking to some of the Twilight Zone chat people, or I am at least. But yeah. So we can get it done in an hour though, no problem.
Oh, um, you're talking.
The on the Discord.
Yeah, you that already happened though. That happened this morning, yeah?
Oh
Or
no,
no?
no, that was the international one. I actually do two currently.
Oh,
So
okay. Oh, you're doing the Sunday night one. Okay, maybe we'll hang around.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or
But
not hang around, but you know what I mean.
yeah, there's usually about 4 or 5 people in there. So I honestly I do like the chats when it's like
Good.
4 to 6 people because sometimes it's
46 people.
4 2 6. Yeah, because when you come
Yeah.
in it's like 25. It's like man, I'll sit in the background and like type snarky stuff, into the chat.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Sorry, I just
No
read here.
problem.
I've got kind of a tight cable right there, which I was probably better off just not messing with. All right, the world's most boring backdrop right here.
Yeah, we
At
had
least you've
several of
got
those in season five.
your
Yeah. Oh, you're
your
talking about
cat
yours.
on there. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the Jeopardy room hotel room.
Oh no, no,
That's
no,
the
man.
worst one.
Like yeah, they're all like, you're so poor. I was like, the man has sconces. How poor can he be?
Yeah.
That's
Um,
nice.
I'll go ahead and if you might already have it, but I will put
I don't. If you'll
the
post it,
boom. It's in the chat. Okay.
sure.
I
All right, let
have
me embiggen.
yeah. There's
Uh-oh,
been a few.
I just did the opposite of that.
They probably
All right,
moved the
you are
button.
now embiggened. I see. Yeah, I'll blame that. We'll go with that. And I feel like I am anything but in the middle.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're asking how I'm doing pretty well. Like my New
Good.
Year's resolutions are working out, but at the same time, I'm starting to get old people problems. So it's kind of a
Yeah, it's
double-edged
like
sword.
that's what's happened. That I noticed that happened to me is like I started to make these New Year's resolutions a number of years ago, and I have I have the will, but I don't have the way more.
No, no, the resolutions worked out. The resolutions were lose
Yeah.
some weight, which I did that, and
Okay. Yeah.
and
So I'll make
and
a resolution to lose some weight. I'll hit the gym every day, and then one of my parts will give out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So what? But for me, it was just yeah, like eating less snacks and not and drinking less, right?
Yeah.
And then studying Japanese more, which I've been doing. I I paid for the app. That way, I will do it, right? So I've been doing that consistently, and my Japanese I'm starting to understand more of what people are saying around me. So it's working. But
Right. Good for you.
but then yeah, right around New Year, I had like a sciatic nerve problem for a while. That's cleared up, so that's nice. But
Oh, great.
the other one, the one, and I've been to the doctor twice, and both times he just told me you're getting old. Is that my thumbs keep cracking, so and then I put a brace on to fix that, and then that caused carpal tunnel in my right hand. So
Oh,
I'm like,
dude,
come
no.
on, that's from
Come
playing
on,
music for
man. It's
30
not
years probably,
fair. Yeah, I bet it is.
but it is frustrating to go to the
Um,
doctor and he's just like, you're getting old. Doesn't give you medicine, doesn't give you a suggestion.
just you're getting old.
I took
Let
the
me.
X-ray. You're getting old.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, but I got the chat if you want me to have at it.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and do the intro and all that stuff and the
Okay. Yeah, I
trivia.
wasn't sure
So,
how you cut things together.
yeah, I'm not changing the stew any, and I try to my goal is to do zero editing, which usually is possible, unless someone drops an F-bomb or if there's something they really regret, then I go back and edit. But otherwise,
I often say things I regret, and
usually on this one,
F
it's just
bombs are my love language.
yeah, usually in this one, it's just F-bombs. I don't know if you've ever listened to a live podcast or specifically an episode with an F-bomb where I just used the opening sound of the podcast as a censor. Um, Last week, it was I Am the Night Coloring Black, and John Arminio was on for that one. He let something slip. He was like, "Oh yeah, it's not like they could say something like he said shit or something, right?" But
Yeah.
just to accentuate, I just put in like 10 seconds of the censor, so it sounds like he really went nuts. So yeah, yeah, you got to use it for some fun too.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Leave five. Speaking of lazy editing, leave 5 second gap, and I will start the podcast then. Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we explore all of the rooms of the Twilight Zone, including this one, the Jeopardy room. This is Matt here, coming back from Mission Log, the Orville podcast. It's Mike Richards. How's it going?
Going great, Matt. Good to be here. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Yeah, and it is funny that you I guess I caused you a little existential crisis putting this one on where you had actually it was kind of like a I just put your name next to this one. You didn't request it, but you had recently watched it, turned out.
Yeah, so I started to do my due diligence earlier this week, watched the episode, and I was like, I just saw, did I cover this? I remember this. I just watched it. And I think it just happened to pop on maybe Sci-Fi Channel or one of the other cable networks that I just watched it because it was on. And then I double checked to make sure that Paramount Plus didn't have the wrong title attached to it because we all love Paramount Plus, but it can be a little quirky. So I made sure it was the correct episode, but I feels like I just watched this one within the last couple of months.
Yeah, I think one of our regular goes Mark here. He watched several in the wrong episode because that's it was just in a different order in Paramount Plus than it is on the Blu-rays or whatever. So he got a little lost. And then Night Call was if folks don't know what I'm talking about, that was going to play the day of the Kennedy assassination. So it still has
Right.
that part in like production order, but it was aired like 2 months later, and that kind of threw a wrench in the works.
I bet.
A bad day for the Twilight Zone, I guess, or watching the Twilight Zone or whatever.
Yeah. Also, I'm sure most people know the Gilligan's Island trivia that the opening is at half because it was filmed in the aftermath of the and as most of the audience probably knows, the opening sequence for Gilligan's Island was filmed in the aftermath of the JFK assassination. So you can see the flags at half mast as they're sort of panning out in the harbor prior to or as the SS Minnow embarks on its 3 hour tour.
Yeah, I think I have heard that before, but it was not in my working pop culture knowledge, so I couldn't spit that one out for anyone, I guess.
Yeah, recent Gilligan's Island deep dive. I think I even watched a couple of the couple of the TV movies.
Those older you can
That
watch them on YouTube. That makes it easy.
yeah, sure does. And then there was the pilot where they were trying to create a hotel type TV show.
And there's
It
Gilligan's
was okay.
Planet. There's an animated one, Gilligan's Planet, which is like
Yeah,
eight
that
times
fits
bizarre.
right. That fits right in with your whole vibe.
Yeah, really. Yeah, yeah. That's. I mean, I haven't watched it, but I imagine if I did watch it, it might not be that great. But I like the fact that it's out there.
It's no Planet of the Apes animated series.
And unlike the Twilight Zone, as a child, I was biased on Gilligan's Island. Like same with Lost in Space. If it was a color episode, I was in. If it was black
Hmm.
and white, I was probably out. Which is too bad because the black and white ones for both of those shows are probably the better ones.
Probably are, yeah. It's a good point.
Yeah, I just as a dumb kid, I want to see some Technicolor.
Heck yeah.
Getting back into the Jeopardy room and some black and white television, I'll go ahead and do a bit of trivia on this episode. Original air date was April 17th, 1964. The script is a Serling. Richard Donner directed. This is the fourth of 6 episodes he directed this season. In terms of later in his career, there is a debate if he is more of the Superman of Hollywood or more of a Goonie. Martin Landau as Major Ivan Kuchenko. You don't forget a face like his, and people haven't, with movies like North by Northwest and Ed Wood, and TV like Mission Impossible and Space 1999. And of course, we've seen him in The Zone before, way back in season one's Mr. Denton on Doomsday. Commissar Vasilov was played by John Van Drielen. He was born in the Netherlands, and in World War II, threw his life for a loop. He escaped a labor camp by dressing up as a German officer, and he continued to do so on American television from the 60s to the 80s. I know he's Russian here, but it's kind of the same idea, right?
Yeah.
Um, and before that, it did. I didn't want to break up my flow. He did have a career in European film in the late 40s, so there is a period where he was working in Europe before he came to the States. Bob Keljan was Boris. He appeared in some fantastic 60s schlock like Hell's Angels on Wheels and Psych Out. In the 70s, he'd move on to directing with stuff like Count Yorga Vampire and Scream Blackula Scream, the Blackula sequel, not the original.
I'm going to say the original is probably better than the sequel.
It's probably better, but the sequel has a better title. I mean, a lot of the black exploitation movies, like Shaft is the best one, but Shaft's Big Score, Shaft Goes to Africa, those are the better titles.
Facts.
And I would argue that the well-named Coffee is better than the better named Foxy Brown. Foxy Brown's the better name, but Coffee's the better movie. If yeah. Let's see.
Also,
That the opinion, of course. I'm sure someone disagrees with that. If you could go ahead and give us the opening narration of the Jeopardy room.
the cast of characters, a cat and a mouse. This is the latter, the intended victim who may or may not know that he is to die, be it by butchery or ballet. His name is Major Ivan Kuchenko. He has, if events go according to certain plans, perhaps 3 or 4 more hours of living. But an ignorance shared by both himself and his executioner is of the fact that both of them have taken the first step into the Twilight Zone.
All right. I was just thinking as you was reading it. This is an episode that if you watch this with Japanese kids, they'd be giggling most of the time. Um,
Okay. Oh, how
Chenko
come?
is genitalia in Japanese, so Kuchenko would really make him giggle. I teach a lot of kids, and living in Japan, the three little pigs are out because not by the hair of my chinny chin chin has a very different meaning in Japan. So yeah, you can't do that one or you're fired. Or at least
That's funny.
well, there was my daughter's 15 now, but when she was 3 or 4, we'd watch Dora the Explorer, right?
Hmm.
As one does, and there was there's a song where she's bouncing or something. She's singing boing boing, everybody boing boing, and my daughter's kind of clapping and singing along. She's 3 or 4. Anyway, in Japanese, boing boing is what an old man would say to be lured towards a young woman.
Really?
So my in-laws were in the room with the songs playing, and everyone's just kind of like, huh? Because
Yeah,
they
you didn't know. She didn't know.
right, right. Well, we didn't know that song was coming up either. So, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that you get those little situations every once in a while with the
Yeah.
the weird language differences.
Sure do. Yep.
Moving into this one, yeah, it is kind of fun to see some Landau again because he's very prominent, Mr. Denton on Doomsday. I'm not sure if you remember that episode, but he's basically a psychotic cowboy in that one. So
Yeah, I
very
sure
different.
do. I remember that one. He was mean to the drunk.
Yes, yes. And then
Yes.
this one's weird because it really seems to be colored by Mission Impossible, but this is before Mission Impossible started to air. Like
Wow,
this
that's
is
a
like 1 or 2 years earlier.
yeah, that's a good point. It's, very, Cold War, very of that time. And I just sort of guessed that that was, what was going on in the geopolitical uh atmosphere at the time is sort of worked its way into this as well as Mission Impossible.
Yeah, and it really feels like they're playing a Mission Impossible scheme on him almost, except that, now the MI group is evil and Landau's on the receiving end, right? But
Yeah.
you could see like, replacing with Landau himself as the front guy, right? And then someone
Hmm.
else is the quote unquote victim. So
Maybe Barbara Bain meet him at the airport.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Um, Something else that I thought when I was, doing my trivia and stuff, I'm like, oh, the script is written by Rod Serling, which is kind of interesting because it feels like we've had a few episodes, especially in season 5, where a completely outside writer does it. So it feels different. And
Hmm.
this one feels like one of those episodes, but it's
I,
not.
I haven't kept track. Does he, where in the series does like his writing activity sort of peak and fade off? And where are we now in season 5? Is it 10% of the episodes
Oh,
or
nah, he's probably still more than 50%. So it's not like
okay.
a mind blower he wrote or anything.
Yeah.
Like season 1, he's writing like 80% of the episodes.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I knew
don't
that.
remember the exact statistics, but there's 156 episodes of The Twilight Zone. I think he wrote like 90 something of them. So
That's amazing.
he wrote more than half the series. He was kind of a writing machine.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one really does feel more like a Alfred Hitchcock Presents sort of thing to me. Or again,
Yeah.
like a Mission Impossible. So it doesn't feel so Twilight Zone this week.
It kind of did. It was very much sort of a I could see this happening as a play, right? Just you've got the a cutaway of two hotel rooms or two rooms across an alleyway, and you can just see what's going on in both of those at the same time. I think it would have worked very well in that kind of venue as well.
We've had a lot of that this season as well. Like it is like kind of clear that season five they're not getting the budgets they used to.
Mhm.
We don't get so much location shooting. A lot of times, like sometimes it's kind of cool. A few weeks ago, for I Am the Night Color Me Black, they're clearly just in a black box studio, and someone's like painted a clock tower on the wall. Like no one would ever mistake
Yeah.
it for real. I'm like, well, that's kind of stylistically interesting, you
It
know?
really is. Yeah, but I mean, they must have had some money because, the man had sconces. He was, Kuchenko's room was being insulted by the commissar for being poor. Who lived here before you, a rat? And I'm looking at sconces. I see a lamp. I see, I think it was okay. Not such a bad room.
Maybe things were better in the 60s. If you saw in color, you'd see the muck and the grime.
Yeah, I'm sure
But
you
here,
would.
we just for the Films and Filth podcast did Old Boy, where they just go out of their way to
Mhm.
make the hotel room he's trapped in for 15 years. I mean, Landau's lucky; he's only trapped in there for 3 hours, right? Where in
Yeah.
Old Boy he's in there for 15 years, and I didn't realize this till after we had done the podcast. But on that one, they're adding on like filters and accentuating the greens, which you're not supposed to do in film because it's ugly.
Hmm.
So they're like
Just to make
intentionally
it ugly.
just intentionally uglifying that entire movie, which is you can't do it in black and white, of course.
So my notes on Vasilov, right, was right initially was like, what kind of accent is that? And then
Kind of
two lines later,
Russianish.
seriously, what kind of accent is that? So was he German? Did I follow the trivia right, trying to do a Russian accent, or was it
Maybe it's East. Well, the actor is Dutch,
okay?
so but he escaped of labor camp by dressing up as a German. Like he
Right,
was.
you mentioned that.
It wasn't like a. I mean, yeah, just prisoner of war sort of
Yeah.
thing. And he escaped as a German officer. So it's kind of funny he did
Hmm.
that in real life and then just proceeded to do that as an actor for 20 years. But
That's brilliant, man. That is turning lemons into lemonade.
I guess if there is something where this episode, and it's not this episode's fault, is since he's supposed to be the upper hand guy, and I think it's all supposed to be vague. Like they never quite say where they are. They're just like you're in a kind of like gray area
They
country, you
said a
know?
neutral country, which I think would probably limit our choices in, whatever
It
time
limits
frame this is
choices. It
supposed to
really
be.
feels, I mean, his name is Kuchenko, so it really does sound like he's coming from Russia, but they do
Hmm.
intentionally not say any place names or
Right.
nationalities in this episode, which is interesting. Because you could easily do that. Is that to get past the censors? Is there, yeah. The other thing that it really makes it feel like we're in the Kafka zone this week, because that sounds like something Kafka would do. You're in like it's vaguely familiar, slightly, well, not more than slightly disturbing setting, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely that fits right in there. I think I wonder how if the actor that played Boris, if he felt snubbed. Cast of characters: a cat and a mouse. No mention of Boris.
Yeah.
None. Not even.
He barely gets any lines, but well, like, going
He had
back to the
one. He
trivia
had one
again,
too many lines, Matt.
he's
One
gonna
too many.
later he's gonna get to make Count Yorga Vampire and Scream Blackula Scream, so he'll get his prize in the end. But yeah, it is interesting that I mean, this is really only two actors. You have to have a guy in the next room with a gun to make the threat real, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah,
Boris is
and
kind
and
of a
somebody to
plot device.
explain and somebody to explain things to.
Right, right. You got to explain the setup, the whole Rube Goldberg machine you set up. But I guess it's a pretty simple one. But I don't know. Maybe people did play Cold War games like this. I don't know. I guess if Serling caught wind of that, he would want to put it into a script, you know?
It's certainly possible. His description of where he said, "You're a malcontent. You don't accept what's ordained." And he said, "I do. I have a low-paying job. At the end of the day, it's kind of boring, but I'm trying to make it interesting." Okay. That could be his motivation.
The one I wrote down is I've killed 800 times you, which
That struck me as funny also. Not to brag,
yeah, I
but
think
I've
it's
killed.
it's partly the delivery which you're getting across, which I didn't write that in my note. But yeah, that delivery makes it really weird and fun to watch on screen, of course. But
Yeah. Yeah, it was. So you have to think, what is it about this person that just is it's not enough to just do their job. So he's an executioner. I think he said he was the last of the imaginative executioners or something along those lines.
How does he
Now,
know he's the
now
last?
that's
Oh,
true.
big world out there.
Maybe I just added that. He
I
described
think he
himself
does say that.
as a gamesman, and I think by gamesman he means douche nozzle. But as he describes himself as a gamesman, and yeah, last of the imaginative executioners is what I have. So I just sort of wonder, is it because this individual is trying to downplay the executioner part of his role and sort of like increase the increase the gamesmanship. Kind of like a importer exporter, right? You're starting to maybe you want to like downplay the importer and like concentrate on the exporter. Maybe there's something that he doesn't want to be the executioner anymore. That he wants to give these folks a way out. That he wants to make the job more challenging because something about just being an executioner has become too much um, for him to continue to do. Or maybe he's just a douche. I don't know.
Well, the MO now, I mean, and I haven't even seen these movies. They're just so far into the pop culture. Everyone knows Saw. It's like, is this guy like a proto Jigsaw, you know? Because this is
Yeah.
very much this wouldn't work in a Saw movie because it has to be completely insane and wildly gory. They can't just explode at the end if it's a Saw movie. But
But you can kind of see how this, there's a straight line from this to Saw, right? There's that ability of the character, the antagonist to, I guess I'll just use the word antagonize the victim and sort of make them go insane.
right, which the scene in this that really did seem insane was drink it, but I know it's poison. We'll drink it anyway. It's just weird. And then it's wine in a Coke bottle, and it was.
It was definitely wine in a Coke bottle.
And
It's
then when he wakes
funny.
up, he has a horrible hangover. It looks like yeah,
Yeah.
that really didn't
Uh-huh.
work out for him. Well, it did work out for him
Uh-huh.
in the end, but that particular bit did not work out for him. That was just all
And
bad news.
and I'm just kind of wondering, like, okay, dude just got drugged by the same thing the other dude drank from. How do you explain that? I got it. Immunity. Drinking it so long. That explains it.
You're right. Like it would actually, because I was also thinking, I did a podcast on the show The Prisoner. This is definitely that kind of vibe, and probably
Hmm.
more the vibe of Patrick McGowan's previous show, Danger Man. Or is that the? I don't remember if that's the American or UK title, but
Sounds
like
familiar.
I
I'm not
watched a
familiar
few of
with it.
those, and it definitely had this kind of vibe. Keeping it small to the for the most part, but yeah,
Yeah. It's funny
cracking
how
dialogue.
yeah, yeah. And then when you referred to the bourgeois not enjoying the finer things. They don't caress the women, they don't sip the wine, they chug it. And now we use the term bougie, which is, Americanization, I guess, of that term to describe things that are, I guess upper class in sort of like a nouveau riche kind of way. Kind of like a new money bedazzled um flashy way
Now
of
it's all about
spending one's money.
now it's all about kids and their Borgs. Not as we are Star Trek folks, not those guys, but the plastic gallon jug generally containing water, vodka, flavored drink mix such as Kool-Aid and sometimes, and that's what I have to click if I want to read more than that.
All righty. It just sounds like the bourgeois are not very bougie, according to the commissar.
No, but you're supposed to show up at a college party with your Borg now, so
All right.
I guess I don't know. I haven't been to a
I'll
college
have to
party for a while.
I'll have to talk to the boy about that. I've got two in college, so I probably ought to.
I bet they know
Maybe
what
I
a
don't want to
Borg
hear
is.
these stories. Yeah.
No, I haven't been around them. Um, Oh yeah, another one. Like Kachenko knows Mission Impossible. The tape player makes him feel at home. It's so weird that this is before Mission Impossible. He wakes up, plays the
That's
tape,
right.
he gets his mission, and then there's one of the best maniacal laughs I've ever heard.
Mhm.
Which the guy was obviously sitting down in a room recording himself talking and then maniacally laughing to himself at the
I
end.
love laughing at my own jokes, though. I gotta admit.
But do you do it
Um,
maniacally?
I don't. I don't, but I've laughed just at my own
Yeah.
thoughts at times,
And
whether I want to
and
admit that or not.
that's the point where excuse me, that's the point where he actually explains the routine or what they're doing to the sniper. It's like, shouldn't you have briefed them before you started? That's something Mission
Well,
Impossible knows to do. They all show up in Peter Graves' living room and have a briefing session about what their jobs are.
yes, and if for some reason we end up in that hotel room, whatever you do, do not answer the phone. Your one takeaway from this briefing is not to answer the phone, Boris.
And he answers after one ring. It's like, oh yes. I'm set. I can completely ignore phone calls because at my job, the people calling are 100% of the time speaking Japanese, and I'm not going to do a business call in Japanese.
There you go.
So
Yeah, yeah.
we've had
Go
rooms with
ahead.
like the Japanese teacher having like their meeting, and there's like five foreign teachers kind of sitting around, and the phone's just ringing. This has happened many times. It's kind of weird.
I did like the tape recording, the way uh the commissar described what he placed in the room. Do you remember what kind of device he placed in uh Martin Landau's hotel room?
I did. I don't think I wrote the. Yeah, maybe you got that in your notes. I do remember
I
hearing
do.
it, but
A booby trap. A
all
booby
right,
trap, Matt.
booby trap.
A booby
Yay!
trap.
So they gave this episode the wrong title. Oops. I mean, they could have
You
had
know,
it.
had they named this the booby trap, then they may not have named that next gen episode booby trap, and then we wouldn't have this meta joke to reference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The joke only works temporally backwards. So that's kind of hey, that's kind of it's a Twilight Zone joke. It works. It only works in reverse.
Now, when you mentioned answering the telephone, is it the telephone or is it the telephone?
Telephone. Well, what accent is that in? As you were asking
I don't know
earlier.
because Boris said the telephone, and the commissar said the telephone.
I guess it is a thing where he's Dutch. He's been living in America. Maybe his accent's changed a little bit more, not because of that. And they're telling him to be vague, right? So
Yeah, and it seemed like it changed like in the very first conversation. Like I was like, okay, that's kind of Russian, German, British, Mid-Atlantic, Russian, German. I couldn't tell. I could not tell, but vague, vague. If
but then
if they were
he's
going for vague, nailed it.
but he's delivering the dialogue. When I was in high school, we had a trip to Europe, right? And we had a tour of the Louvre. And I remember
Hmm.
going and being in the basement area of the Louvre and the tour guide having the most, it was like eight different accents all mashed together. I don't know how that happened or if it was just like a way,
Right.
like I don't know who's going to be on my tour. So I I don't. It was weird. It was like there was some Southern in there, there was some French in there, there was some German. It was like I can't even explain it anymore. This was like
Oh,
like 30 years ago, right? But
but that sounds fantastic, though. I mean, that could be a talented individual just taking you through the different rooms and the different vibes of the Louvre and making the most of it.
I'm bringing up regular guest host Mark again. This is 2 decades ago where we were working at the mall or for the South African guy who he would I guess he also had a speech impediment kind of too, but I remember because my job was basically taking his car and moving things from between the stores, right?
Now, was this an Atlanta mall, just for context,
This is
or
like five Atlanta malls. Yeah. I would just
okay?
drive between the different locations and deliver stuff. And sometimes he'd give me like, hand me $3,000 in cash. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, what? I mean, not cash for me. It was cash to deliver or whatever, you know?
But you didn't know who or for what or when.
I mean, I had a good idea, but like his instructions were like almost incomprehensible. So I already like kind of knew what was supposed to happen. But yeah, it was just like, you just handed me a wad of money and gave me vague instructions. Is that a great idea?
Uh-huh.
I could have run off with the money, I think.
I guess a note would help. Note goes a long way.
A note goes a long way, yeah. So,
So
um,
did you see when Landau was sort of, caressing the telephone and sort of considering things? I thought he did a very nice job of kind of kind of just came across it like it was the next thing in the room to study. And then he just sort of, you could see the thought process and you can see the light bulb come on over his head. And he kind of right there, you can almost see the plan develop inside. Did you pick up on that, or am I kind of reading a little bit into his
That's where I
acting
was.
there?
Yeah, I was just reading into that because by that point the tape recorder's been on, and I'm just full on thinking, is this just like a Mission Impossible episode? Because that's what you do in a Mission Impossible episode, you know? So
Right.
I would just full on like once that tape recorder's on screen, and we got Landau. I'm just like my and we are.
Yeah.
I think people can pick up we're talking '60s Mission Impossible, not Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, which I also like, but does not do this sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. When I go see a Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise, I get exactly what I pay for. It is exactly what I expect. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's high paced. It is exactly what I want to go see. I have enjoyed virtually all of them very much, but it's not the
It's a
nuanced.
different thing, you
Yeah,
know? Like I
right.
think of those movies in the '60s TV shows being entirely different things despite having the same
Mhm.
name.
Yeah, they are entirely different things.
And I like
Enjoyable
both,
in different
so
ways.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh so yeah, I guess it is a fun Twilight Zone ending just because Boris is so stupid. So,
Man, just get the job done. It's kind of like it's March Madness, it's basketball season. You got a fast break, you break the press, you got a chance to, just score a layup and put two on the board for your team, or you can do like a windmill monster dunk and bang it off the back of the rim into the crowd. Um, I vote layup, man. I just lay it up, get the 2 points.
just playing with your
Commissar.
food, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's playing with your food. Just do your job, man. You got one job.
And answering the phone is not that job. The one that
And
you
being,
set up.
yeah, his job is executioner. I don't think it says imaginative executioner on his business card or
I
in his
hope it's on
file,
his
in his
business card.
KGB file. I'm sure it doesn't say gamesman in his KGB file. It probably just says executioner. Do your job.
What an executioner on their business card? That's a good question. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's why I pivoted from business card to KGB file. Although it kind of sounds like I'm promoting and endorsing executions, and I am not, and I don't think you would be either. But I'm
No,
just
I,
for the
I
sake of this episode, just do your job, man. Just do your job.
I think it's kind of going on the way out, but in the past in Japan, like you meet someone like another adult and they just always exchange business cards, right? So
Yeah,
I don't anymore, but I used to have business cards, right? So
right.
as things are more digital, but yeah, I can just imagine two people being, execution or something.
Yeah, I got a QR code on my phone that somebody can scan. It kind of like puts my contact info right into their phone, which is kind of slick.
What I do have though, and I did not make this, and if people listening will just you'll have to explain what I'm showing you.
Ooh, it is a $1 play money with Matt Commage's picture in it
Yeah,
in place of the president.
right.
And I like it.
I have like $20 of this, so
And does that have contact info? Does that have your phone number and title or anything? Or
that's what I'm saying. I should put it on the back or something, and start handing
yeah.
those out to people.
Uh-huh.
They're made for like summer school, winter school, and no, someone else made it. I did not make that, so it's kind of funny that I have it. Let's do a few questions here. Who in this episode do you believe goes in or through the Twilight Zone?
This was I mean, not to skip ahead to the trippy meter or anything, but not a whole lot of this episode could have occurred on any one of our number shows to include the Twilight Zone and or Mission Impossible or probably um, other spy shows of the day. I would say who went into the Twilight Zone. I would I would leave it at I'm gonna go weirdly solely with um, Ivan Kuchenko. He went through the Twilight Zone because he was in a hotel room minding his own business, waiting for his flight on Transocean Airways, Flight 17. And all of a sudden, he's in the middle of this game that he has to figure things out. I think yeah, he went through the Twilight Zone. He was sort of torn, forced through this detour into the Twilight Zone. I'll go with that.
Okay. Now, the prologue you read said that both of them, himself and his executioner, have taken their first step into the Twilight Zone. So,
Well,
j-
far be it from me to disagree with the author
yeah. But I
and
am going to
the
disagree.
creator of the show.
No, I'm going to disagree because, like you were mentioning, it's like a spy show. There is no Twilight Zone here. It's
Yeah,
it's just
it's
people
just kind of
doing
it's kind of a show.
like these are. I mean, this it's very unlikely this would. Well, is it? I don't know. This could happen, right? You could set this up if you really, really wanted to, and
I
were a
think you
really
could.
imaginative executioner.
Yeah,
The
yeah. If you were quite the
silence.
gamester.
Yeah, the silence is one of the other. One more pallbearer. These are episodes that are very weird, but
Hmm.
it's not those episodes, it's hard to say if there is a Twilight Zone. One more pallbearer, I think, a little more because spoiler, there's a like nuclear strike at the end destroying the city, so that's a
Hmm.
little Twilight Zone. But the silence in this one, that's just for anyone outside of these rooms, it's just business as usual, whatever it's like in that neutral country.
Yeah.
So I guess my answer would be nobody, but let's take the
Oh, wow. You're full on
I'm
disagreeing
full on
with
nobody. I'm disagreeing with
yeah.
Rod on this one. So I'm noting his what he said, so I'm not ignoring Rod. I'm just disagreeing with him. But for the sake of questions, I guess let's really focus on Kachenko and does he deserve his trip through the Twilight Zone?
Well, it's vague. What he did was vague. He was accused of not accused. It was recounted that he denounced his country, spent 12 years in prison,
They
and
did say
then
Siberia, I think, too. Like that
they
was a
mentioned
place
Siberia.
name
Yeah,
name. Yeah.
the frozen jungle, and he was trying to get out and get to the West, and maybe all of this is just some sort of like weird allegory for, what it's like to put your life into this kind of upheaval, to leave everything and have to navigate these hurdles and do all of the things you have to do to start a new life. Now, I'm not saying that's, get poisoned or drugged and stay in a hotel, but metaphorically, there's booby traps along the way. I mean, my parents, grandparents, emigrated to the United States, and that was fraught with, for lack of a better term, booby traps. That if they didn't handle things just right, that process would have been, you know, back on the boat, go back to the place from whence you came. So metaphorically, reaching the West, I
Yeah,
can see it. I
for
can
me,
see
I
it.
mean, I'm a long-term expat, and I'm sure there are weird ways I could, totally trip up
Hmm.
being long-term in a different country.
Yeah.
I think it's a little easier than, to do that modern Japan than say an Iron Curtain country for sure. But
Right.
um, as far as the imaginative executioner, I mean, yeah, of course he deserves this. He gets a Darwin Award. Maybe, maybe Boris gets the Darwin Award.
Okay, so yeah, I think Boris is not winning any IQ awards for answering the phone. Having the game already explained to them, but that, reflex to answer a ringing telephone is, you know, at one time our reflex is to at one time our reflex was to answer a ringing telephone, right? Now, like we talked about before, our reflex is kind of like to look at the phone and be like, I'm not getting that. I'm not answering the doorbell. I'm not answering my phone. I'm going to look at if they call on my cell and I see a caller ID, I know then I'll think about it.
Why don't you text me? Just text me.
Yeah, but back then it was just the phone rings, it's right there. Hello, boom. Um, so this occurred, Boris. All right, not brilliant. Um, the commissar, I think maybe just a little bit more emphasis, right? Players play the game, but coaches got to set the stage for success. The commissar did not drive it into Boris's head that if this phone rings, do not answer it, right?
We explained it to him in excruciating detail, but
once, but then you have to quiz, right? You have to ask questions. You got to quiz. All right, we're going to the room. If the phone rings, don't answer it, man.
Yeah, before we start recording, I told you I've been trying to do the language app more, and when it gets repetitive, it's like, well, I'll remember the word that way, you know.
Yeah. Yep. Repetition makes it last, amongst
Uh,
other things.
let's go ahead and place this on the tripometer, which you were alluding to a bit. What number did you land on? Or
Uh, yeah, so looking at what this episode should have been, which was, hotel room, another room across the alley. There he is. Should I kill him? Yes. Roll credits. Right. That would have been a normal night in this, nondescript neutral I can only imagine European city. So when we compare it to that, yeah, it's a little bit trippier than that, but I'm down around like maybe a one and a one on the trip meter. Just
okay.
straight up one. I'm not even gonna try to use a funny number.
I'm thinking about a three, but that's because I do find
Oh, no
weird
way.
Rube Goldberg mechanics can get a little weird and trippy, especially you
Yeah,
get in some mid-century modern looking settings. Like for me, Mission Impossible can be a little bit trippy when they have a weird scheme and they're wearing weird masks and all that sort of stuff. And you
that's
know,
true. I guess, I usually with the number of sort of unexplained metaphysical aspects to the Twilight Zone, that's usually for me where I attach the trippiness to
yeah, I can get that.
is
I
is
mean,
is that
this question's only interesting when myself and the person on the other end of the screen don't have the same number. If we have the same number, it's
oh,
like, it's like, ah,
it's
there
like
it is.
that's
Off we go.
that's
Great.
boring. Yeah, but yeah, the mental place that, the commissar was in to come up with this, the place where his life is as an executioner that makes this the only way to make that job tolerable, makes these games the only way that he can sort of continue on in that role is interesting. And I think it's a good episode and it's an interesting question to consider. I just think that this is if it's something that can happen in the real world, for me, it's going to be inherently low on the trippy scale.
I An interesting contrast, and this is a movie which I think it was like kind of post-pandemic, just kind of dumped onto Netflix or something. But have
Mhm.
you seen David Fincher's The Killer?
No.
I think it's a very good movie, but the whole conceit of the movie, it's the guy you're talking about who goes in no fuss, no muss, and takes the shot. And
Yeah.
and a bit of meta movie making, the whole thing is at the beginning of the movie, he misses the shot. And knowing how technical a filmmaker David Fincher is, you're
Hmm.
kind of like, oh, he misses the shot. And then
Right.
he has to go and basically like murder everyone that knows that he was on the mission or
Hmm.
something. But it's played by Michael Fassbender, and he's played as a very dull, possibly not very smart guy. Uh,
Right.
he dresses like a German tourist, so nobody will notice him
Hmm.
while he sets up his assassinations and stuff. But
Yeah,
and,
2023, 85% Rotten Tomatoes, 6.7 IMDb. It's
and you get a one
um
scene Tilda Swinton scene that just knocks it out of the park. That's always fun in a movie when you get
all
one
right.
Tilda scene that's just amazing. So
I'm sold. It's going on the list.
I'll recommend adding that to the list. But and also just everything you're saying about how this commissar is kind of like stupid. Well, this other Michael Fassbender's guy fixes it, right? But then
Yeah.
he's just screwing up in different ways. So it's not a great
Yeah,
job.
it's funny
Don't kill
because
people.
I think I keep coming to finding these funny word connections tonight. It's not that I think the executioner is stupid. I just think his plan was poorly executed, which is kind of ironic for an executioner.
I gotta write that
Um,
out sometime. I need to look at what you just said.
and then, and then the fact that I feel like this is a little bit of a not necessarily a cry for help, but a metaphor for folks that are stuck in boring jobs that have to do things that are pretty much straightforward, but the only way that they can get through the day is to try to do things that make them more interesting.
So Rod wants out of the Twilight Zone by this point.
Could be, could be, it could be that.
The show was doing okay. I think it was going to switch networks. Like there was an offer for the show to continue, switch networks, I think to ABC, and they were like, we
Okay,
want it to be more supernatural and horror like. And he wasn't into it until like what, 3 years later when he does Night Gallery. So he
Night
does
Gallery.
eventually do it, but not as
Yeah.
Twilight Zone season six. So
Hmm. Interesting.
do you have any final thoughts you want to throw out into the Jeopardy room? I did have the Weird Al Yankovic tune I lost on Jeopardy in my head the
I was
entire
thinking the
time.
same thing because Weird Al Yankovic was up against the plumber and the architect, if I remember right, in that song. So I was thinking he's up against the executioner and the hitman or the butcher, I think he was described as also. Yeah, definitely had the Weird Al I lost on Jeopardy in my head as
I don't know if
well.
you're shooting people. I feel like you're not a butcher. I feel like you have to use hand tools to murder people to be a butcher.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a disparaging comment. I mean, the man was, if anything, probably more of a sniper, which is,
Yeah, that's what I wrote in
usually,
my notes. The trigger, he's got
yeah,
some trigger finger going on. Yeah,
yeah,
so
usually thought of higher than whatever. Sounds like I'm admiring these folks, and I'm just clearly not. Important to have a plan. Step one, don't answer the phone. Step two, run. Step three, call the phone. So that's important. I like the way he came up with all of those things and executed those that plan very well. And I think if you're bored in your job, just do a new one. I think of something. Pat, I just thought of this now. Pat Riley said once, if the game you're playing is too easy, you'll screw it up just to make things more interesting. Once again, we're talking basketball season here in the U.S., so I'll throw that one out there. That's sort of the moral for mine. The game that the executioner was playing was too easy, so he screwed it up just to make it more interesting.
mm.
Got himself killed in the meantime.
Although for the listener, it's mid-April, so they know who won March Madness. But what's going on your end mid-April?
We've got something I'm working on right now. We're going to compare and contrast similar episodes of Star Trek and the Orville. So as we all know, there's episodes like Blink of an Eye is somewhat similar to Mad Idolatry. Um, excuse me, Wink of an Eye, the Voyager one, similar to Mad Idolatry, as is For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky is similar to If the Stars Should Appear. They're both generational ships. The folks don't know they're living on it. So we're
Long
going to pick
titles.
long titles, very dramatic titles. So we're going to pick episodes like that and compare them and just kind of see who did it better or just kind of compare and contrast messages, morals, and meanings, production. Kind of give our opinion on that. So that'll be something that I'm kicking off. Just maybe a 8 to 10 minute episode on each pair of episodes dropping on YouTube. And that's what I'm working on now.
I should have found a specific Mission Impossible. We could have got some practice in with this one.
That would have been good.
As for us, we're Time Enough Podcast. Do rate and review on all the pod catchers, and we do a lot of podcasting at Podcastio, podcastius.org. Podcast 1999. We're currently working through the televised Planet of the Apes. We did the movies, we did Space 1999, and that's where we are. Films and Filth, we cover what are supposed to be really good and really bad movies as voted by IMDb users, and there's some video game stuff. Luke loves Pokemon. Game show Monster Mash. I'm not going to edit that flub. I'm leaving it in. I'm going to double
Leave
it
it in there.
with it.
2 more episodes we can compare.
Yep.
Lasting impressions and booby trap.
Yep. Yeah. 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 Get booby trap in there. Yeah, sure. I'll cut it there. Why not?
Sure.
Um, well, yeah, if you do feel chatty, we are in 10 minutes talking about the masks and I Am the Night, Color Me Black on the Discord, which I don't know if you've seen either of those.
I
And
haven't
actually,
seen either one of them.
okay. Um, although this came together really quickly, so but in 1 hour, Mark and I are
Okay.
going to do a April Fool's podcast for Airport 75. I don't know how familiar you are with that.
Oh my God, I fucking love that movie.
If you're bored, want to come on, go for it. Send you a link. But
Don't
that's
worry, Mom. Dad says this airplane's a real pussycat.
I'm sure I had a note for that.
Yeah. And then at
Anyway,
the end,
yeah, that's wildly optional because we just basically came up with the idea of doing this like a day or two ago. But yeah.
okay. When's the last did you so have you watched the movie in
Oh, I
that
watched
period
it
of time?
last night, which
Okay. Yeah.
being the age I am, I've seen Airplane like 100 times, but I've never actually
Yeah.
watched Airport 1975. I
Yeah. I
watched
may mm,
I almost bought the set of the 70s airport movies on Amazon on Blu-ray a few months ago, but it seemed that maybe is from the UK and that can be a different Blu-ray region, so I didn't buy it.
gotcha. I probably ought to ask John about this. Um, if now if a DVD says it's region free, does that truly mean it'll play anywhere?
It should.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of Blu-rays are, and even a lot of UK ones are, but just if you're buying it online, you need to like there was no picture of the back of the box, right? If there's a picture of the back of the box, you can see if it'll say ABC for a Blu-ray,
Yeah.
meaning it'll play anywhere. But some of them are
Okay.
region A, region B, because
Right.
about a year ago I bought some movies used at
Uh-huh.
like a used store, and it turned out they wouldn't play on my stuff because they were straight up UK coded.
Okay. Yeah, there's something I wanted to buy that said region free,
Yeah.
and
And also for
I
my
was
family, like it's nice to put on a Japanese subtitle. So if there are no Japanese subtitles, it's kind of crappier.
yeah,
Although I don't
sounds
know if
good.
they're up for watching, airport movies from the 70s, but
Yeah. I tell you what, you got your thing at Discord starting in like 7 minutes, I think.
yeah, that's right.
So do your thing. I may pop in there for a little while. The maybe I've got to get ready to go to work in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm just throwing it
But
on you, but I'm like, geez,
yeah,
since you're on the line,
because
I should probably say
yeah,
something about it.
because I haven't seen it for a while, but I fucking love that movie.
Or you know what? If you just
Um,
want to come on for a few minutes and just have a quick rant about it, that's fine
yeah.
too. Maybe
All
that's the way
right.
to do it. Don't hang out for the whole thing. Just show up and we got a pilot. Tell us what you think of
Okay.
Airport 1975, and then if you need to be on your way, that's fine.
Sounds good. If you don't mind sending me the Zoom link, I'll
Yeah, I'll do that. So,
thank you, sir.
okay. See you in a little
All
while
right.
then.
Thanks.
Thanks as
Thanks, Matt. All
always.
right.
Bye bye.
Bye.